Have you ever sat in a quiet room, the kind where the silence feels heavy, and the only sound is the rhythmic ticking of a clock or the distant hum of the world moving on without you, and realized that despite all the people you know and all the roles you play, there is a version of you that remains entirely untouched by the world, a version that perhaps even you are afraid to look at in the light of day? This isn't about a dark secret or a hidden flaw in the traditional sense, but rather about the profound and sometimes terrifying depth of your own internal landscape that you have spent a lifetime learning to ignore, because the truth of who you are is far more expansive than the narrow definition society has provided for you. Most of us go through our days performing a curated version of ourselves, a carefully constructed mosaic of smiles, polite agreements, and socially acceptable ambitions. But beneath that surface, in the quietest corners of your mind, there is a persistent whisper that tells you there is something more, something older, and something much more complex than the person you present to the mirror every morning. You may have noticed that you often feel like an observer in your own life, watching yourself interact with friends or colleagues as if you are a character in a movie. And while you play the part well, there's a lingering sense of detachment, a feeling that the real you is somewhere else, perhaps tucked away in a place so deep that even you have lost the map to find it. This scariest thing about your personality, the thing you've been hiding from yourself, is not that you are fundamentally broken or inherently bad, but rather the sheer staggering scale of your own untapped potential and the terrifying responsibility that comes with acknowledging your own agency. We often hide behind our anxieties and our perceived limitations because they are familiar and they provide a sort of psychological shelter. If we believe we are small, we don't have to face the gargantuan task of being great. And if we believe we are helpless, we don't have to take responsibility for the direction of our souls. You might find that you have a tendency to sabotage your own happiness just as it reaches its peak, not because you don't deserve it, but because the version of you that is truly happy and truly free is a stranger to you, and the human mind would often prefer a familiar misery to an unfamiliar joy. There is a specific kind of loneliness that comes with being a deep feeler or a quiet observer, a sense that you are tuned to a frequency that no one else can hear, and you have likely spent years trying to turn down the volume on that frequency just so you could fit into a world that rewards the loud and the superficial. You notice the subtle shifts in the atmosphere of a room, the unspoken tension between friends, and the hidden sadness in a stranger's eyes. And while this makes you incredibly perceptive, it also makes you feel profoundly isolated, as if you are carrying a weight that no one else even knows exists. This sensitivity is often what you hide most from yourself, relabeling it as overthinking or being too sensitive, because it is easier to pathologize your gifts than it is to honor the intensity of your inner world. Think back to the moments when you felt most yourself, those rare fleeting seconds when the mask slipped and you felt a surge of raw, unadulterated life, and notice how quickly you moved to cover it up, how fast you retreated back into the safety of your persona because the power of that moment was too much to sustain. We are all, in some way, refugees from our own greatness, hiding in the shadows of our own lives, because we fear that if we were to truly show ourselves, we would be either rejected by others or, more terrifyingly, forced to change everything about our current reality. You have likely experienced the Barnum effect in your own life without knowing its name. That strange feeling when you read a description of a personality type and feel a jolt of recognition, as if someone has finally seen into your soul. But the truth is that these descriptions work because we all share a common human core that is far more similar than we care to admit. We all share the same fears of inadequacy, the same longing for connection, and the same secret belief that we are somehow different from everyone else. And yet, in your case, there is a unique thread of resilience that you have consistently undervalued. You have survived things you never told anyone about. You have carried burdens that would have broken others, and you have done it all while maintaining a facade of normalcy that is, in itself, a testament to your incredible strength. But the scariest truth remains. You are the architect of your own prison, and the bars are made of the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. You hide your true personality because it is inconvenient for the life you have built. It would require you to speak up when you have been silent, to leave when you have stayed, and to love yourself with a ferocity that feels almost violent in its intensity. Deep down, you know that you are not the person you pretend to be at work or the person your family thinks they know. You are something much more fluid, much more dangerous, and much more beautiful. You have a capacity for deep, transformative thought that you often dismiss as daydreaming, and you have an intuition that is so sharp it frightens you. So you blunt it with distractions, with the endless scroll of social media, or with the busyness of a life that doesn't actually fulfill you. This disconnection between your internal reality and your external performance creates a subtle, constant friction, a low-grade hum of anxiety that you've become so used to that you barely notice it anymore, like the sound of a refrigerator in the background of a kitchen. You might find yourself drawn to the melancholic, to the philosophical, and to the stories of others who have wandered through the wilderness of the soul, because in their stories, you find echoes of the truths you are too afraid to voice yourself. You are likely someone who gives a lot to others, who acts as the anchor or the healer in your social circle. But have you ever stopped to ask why you are so comfortable being the one who supports and so uncomfortable being the one who is seen? It is because, as long as you are focusing on the needs of others, you don't have to look at the vast echoing space of your own unmet needs and your own hidden desires. The scariest thing you've been hiding from yourself is that you are actually worthy of the very things you try so hard to give to everyone else, and that by denying yourself that same compassion, you are perpetuating a cycle of self-neglect that you call being a good person. There is a profound difference between being nice and being kind. And you have likely spent a long time being nice because you are afraid of the consequences of your own authentic kindness, which might require you to set boundaries that others won't like. You are afraid that if you stop being the version of you that everyone expects, you will be left with nothing. But the truth is that only when you let go of the false self can the true self finally breathe. This process of uncovering the hidden personality is not a one-time event, but a slow, often painful unfolding, like a flower blooming in a desert, and it requires a level of honesty that most people are simply unwilling to practice. You have to be willing to look at your shadow, the parts of you that are jealous, the parts that are angry, the parts that are incredibly selfish, and realize that these are not defects, but vital parts of your humanity that have been distorted by your attempt to hide them. When you suppress your anger, it turns into depression. When you suppress your desire, it turns into apathy. And when you suppress your truth, it turns into a life that feels like it belongs to someone else. You are not a static entity. You are a living, breathing process of becoming. And the scariest thing you've been hiding is that you have the power to change at any moment, to discard the scripts you've been following, and to write a new story that is actually yours. You might feel a sense of guilt when you think about putting yourself first, as if your existence is only justified by your utility to others, but this is a lie you've been told to keep you manageable. Your true personality is not manageable. It is vast, it is wild, and it is deeply connected to the mysteries of life that most people prefer to ignore. You have probably felt a sense of homesickness for a place you've never been, or a longing for a person you've never met. And this is simply your true self calling out to you from across the void of your own self-denial. You are hiding your capacity for joy because joy is vulnerable. It is much safer to stay in a state of mild dissatisfaction than it is to risk the heartbreak that comes with truly caring about something or someone. But by hiding your capacity for joy, you are also hiding your capacity for meaning, leaving you in a gray world where everything is fine, but nothing is alive. You are hiding the fact that you are deeply, inextricably connected to the universe in a way that makes your small-scale worries seem insignificant. And while that realization is liberating, it is also terrifying because it means you are never truly alone, and your actions have a resonance that you can't even begin to calculate. You have spent so much time trying to be normal that you've forgotten that normal is a myth, a statistical average that describes no one and satisfies no one. Your rare traits, your intuition, your empathy, your philosophical nature are not things to be hidden, but are the very tools you were given to navigate this complex existence. The fear you feel when you think about these things is not a sign to stop, but a sign that you are approaching the truth, because the truth is always a bit frightening before it becomes familiar. You are hiding your own divinity from yourself because you don't feel worthy of it. But worthiness is not something you earn. It is something you claim. You have been waiting for someone to give you permission to be who you are, to tell you that it's okay to be different, to be deep, and to be complicated. But that permission can only come from within. The scariest thing about your personality is that it is entirely yours, and no one else can live it for you. And no one else can take the blame if you choose to keep it hidden. As you move through the world after today, you might start to notice the moments where you shrink yourself to fit a space that is too small for you. And in those moments, I hope you feel a little bit of that scary truth pushing back, reminding you that you were meant for more than just fitting in. You were meant to stand out, not in a way that demands attention, but in a way that honors the unique light you carry. A light that has been dimmed for far too long. You are much stronger than you think, much deeper than you know, and much more loved than you can currently imagine. And the only thing standing between you and the life you were meant to live is the courage to look into the mirror of your own soul and finally acknowledge the beautiful, terrifying truth of who you really are. It is okay to be afraid, for fear is the threshold of growth, and it is okay to be uncertain, for uncertainty is the birthplace of possibility. You are not alone in this journey, for every soul you encounter is carrying its own hidden truths and its own secret fears, and by finding the courage to embrace your own personality, you give others the unspoken permission to do the same. This is the quiet revolution of the soul, a movement that doesn't happen on the streets or in the headlines, but in the private, sacred moments of self-recognition that change the way you see yourself, and eventually, the way you see the entire world. You have been hiding for a long time, but the hiding can end today. Not with a grand gesture, but with a simple, quiet acceptance of the person who has been waiting for you all along. Take a deep breath and feel the reality of your own existence, the miraculous fact that you are here, that you are conscious, and that you have the capacity to choose your own path. The scariest thing about your personality is actually the most beautiful thing about it. It is yours. It is powerful, and it is ready to be seen. You don't have to change who you are. You just have to stop trying to be who you aren't. And in that release, you will find a peace that surpasses all understanding. The world doesn't need more people who are normal. It needs more people who are authentic, who are brave enough to be vulnerable, and who are willing to look at the scariest parts of themselves and find the gold hidden within the shadow. You are that person, and your journey toward self-discovery is the most important work you will ever do. A work that requires no audience and no validation other than the quiet satisfaction of finally being at home in your own skin. So, the next time you find yourself in that quiet room, don't look away from the silence, but listen to what it has to tell you about the person you've been hiding. And remember that you have nothing to fear from your own soul, for it is the only thing that has ever truly been on your side. You are the mystery, you are the seeker, and you are the answer you've been looking for all this time, hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to have the courage to say yes to yourself.